this thing on?
We're talking about practice, man.
I mean, I work with my hands. It's a misdemeanor in 27 states.
You gotta be comfortable with your co-host in this amount of space.
Yeah, I can see me and you.
This guy runs a state.
You get that through your head?
You just got hashtag content.
You know, technology and stuff.
Open your grill. It's stuck in your teeth.
Now I have to mark them so I don't get the lick mic.
You're not really that stupid, are you?
Quavos.
I'm just here so I won't get fined.
We don't have a lot of editing this time.
The ceiling is the roof. Let's make it happen.
The Terps are top dogs, and now that summer is here, Matty, break out the Hofmans.
No, Zweigles. Travis Eldridge of the Lax Sports Network joins us to break down Monday's national championship game.
Plus a tribute to one of sportscasting's all-time greats.
And the grass is always greener on the other side, even when it's plastic.
To be determined, episode 13, previously recorded from the studio in Mom's basement.
We there right now.
It's hot in her? No? Wrong song.
Nelly?
Nelly.
Now is it Nelly Furtado?
No.
Or
no,
is
no,
it
no. Not the food, not the breakfast dish.
Not Frittata.
Oh.
Nelly Furtado.
Either way, it's
Recording artist. You know who she is.
I couldn't name one of her songs. Could not name one of her songs.
Yeah.
And apparently neither can you. All right, so we will we'll move on. We'll move on. Yeah, Maddie, we're talking Lax, bro, with Travis Eldridge of the Lax Sports Network. Plus, we're working, or who's working, rather, the railroad crossings. Interesting question. And we're talking short game with PGA professional Marty Nowicki, the owner of the Impact Snap.
Shawty, yeah.
I don't know why.
T-Pain.
Okay. Oh, now we're on to T-Pain. When Nelly Furtado to T-Pain.
You're saying it wrong on purpose.
Okay, well. What's the word this week, buddy?
We got all sorts of stuff. All sorts of sports. We might as well just say postseason.
Well, first we should apologize for not being released on a Monday and letting people know that it was going to be released on a Tuesday, but
It was real Patriots.
Memorial Day weekend, we had to partake, I guess is the best way to put it. Not really, but figured no one would want to listen to a preview about a lacrosse championship game for just a few hours and then have it be worthless the rest of the week. So
Yeah.
we called in the righty, made some adjustments, some halftime adjustments, and we're better for it in the second half, if I'm honest.
I thought you were saying that Travis, who we're having on later, is a righty. I'm like, I don't know that.
We didn't ask him that, but maybe that could be one of the final 5 questions.
Righty or lefty?
Righty or lefty?
That's we're looking for
It's a
quick
quick
answers
one.
there.
It's a quick
That's
answer.
almost too quick of an answer.
Too quick? Alma Mater's pretty quick, though, if I'm honest. We'll
Yeah,
get
it's
to it
more
later.
interesting.
All right, let's dive into the first topic here quickly. Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final. Preds
Stanley Cup.
Preds at Pens, Game 1, and what a fascinating first period this was. Predators jump out on the road first. It gets overturned because of an offsides call. The Penguins proceed to score 3 unanswered. One was on a 5-on-3. One was off a Predator player and in the back of the net. So really it was 1 earned goal, 2 unearned goals, if you could put it that way to kind of go baseball terms on you, where the Penguins were the recipient of a lucky bounce, or a fortuitous bounce, if you will.
I would say fortuitous,
Okay.
but it's when the OG is not OG.
A couple of bounces.
It's too bad, and that's tough. That's tough in the finals.
You
have an
credit,
OG.
You credit Nashville. I almost said Smashville, but either way, you credit the Preds for
Sign
coming
some
back.
posters that are at the stadium or something.
You credit the Predators for making the comeback, tying it at 3, and then, as you noted, the Stones on Gensel.
The Cantaloupes.
The Cantaloupes on Gensel.
On the young man.
And that third period game-winning goal, twisted, wicked, delicious, whatever you want to call it, it was a spectacular goal in a huge spot by a young kid. That's the type of goal that I don't care that the Predators played well the entire game. You stole one. The Penguins stole game 1 at home.
And Eye of the Tiger for the youngin. It was the second it touched the stick, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They didn't have numbers. He just darted. He darted, gets confident. And you got to feel for the Predators a little bit because, man, oh man, they really
outplayed them.
They dominated.
Yes.
I would say
That's the
dominated
better word.
everything but the score.
So we've got the nugget here. The Penguins went 37 minutes of game time without a shot on goal.
And 9 seconds. That's what really gets you.
They got outshot 26-12 in the game, and yet they still won 5-3. For all intent and purposes,
Those are
game.
absurd stats.
I've never seen a game quite like that before. And listen, what a way to open Game 1. What a way to open Game 1 of the Stanley Cup Final, I think. I mean, we had a lot of everything in that game. I hate the offsides review call, and everyone did. It blew up on Twitter. No one likes it. It delays the game. It was a matter of not even inches, millimeters, really, where the toe was dragged off the ice, if that's a measurement, sure. So it kills the game, but I think the way that ended, the way the Predators came back, it should give Nashville fans hope, and the way Pittsburgh won, to me, Penguins fans should have hope as well, because they clearly got outplayed, yet they won the game.
Yeah.
So interesting.
That's a good way to look at it.
Interesting Game 1. I was entertained all the way through. We moved to the NBA Finals, the difference between final and finals, between hockey and basketball. Game 1, not for, another month or so, I believe it is. Or at least it feels like
What's going on here? It's absolutely ridiculous. And if there was 2 sweeps like people thought it would be, and it got real close to, it would have been over a week.
Yeah. I don't remember the last time I saw the Warriors play. It's been forever, it seems like. So in the interest of fair journalism, this was an interesting nugget here. Blew up on social media early Monday morning. LeBron and JR seen at a future concert. Exhibit 1 why the NBA, as I've noted here, Exhibit 1 why the NBA needs to move up the finals.
And I don't think this decision is because these guys need a little vacation in between. I don't think it's because of the Memorial Day holiday. I think it's just poor execution.
I don't understand why the finals are that far back. Clearly, there's too much downtime because players are going to concerts in between the conference finals and the actual, league finals. There's too much time. The other nugget that came out on Monday was that Steve Kerr, was conflicting reports whether Steve Kerr was going to coach. He said it's still up in the air for Thursday. The initial report, I think it was by ESPN, saying that he was planning on not returning to the floor to coach Game 1. The conflicting report, they ended up, I think, redacting. Is that the correct word there? Their initial report, and Kerr either clarified something or they clarified something, and now it's more convoluted than ever, and it seems like it's still up in the air whether Steve Kerr is going to be on the sidelines.
And what makes it even a bigger storyline with all this is that Mike Brown, the interim for the Warriors there, he used to coach the Cavaliers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if he's coaching against a team that he brought to this level before?
Yep. I was going to say, I kind of want to see Game 1, Brown on the sidelines versus LeBron, just for the first one.
At least one.
Let Kerr
At
come
least
back.
one.
Just for the heck of it. Maddie with a quick cough off mic.
There's a lot of them today.
You need to hydrate better.
Who's next? TJ Miller.
Something like that. Maybe a cough drop.
Nah.
Okay, let's go to the big news of the weekend, at least the big news in my eyes.
My eyes.
Memorial Day weekend. Thank you to all those that have served.
Absolutely.
And have sacrificed serving, because that's what Memorial Day is all about. I believe that's the correct one.
Absolutely.
Veterans Day just remembers those who have served. This is the day that we remember those who
Currently
gave
serving.
the ultimate sacrifice, I believe.
Yeah.
That's the idea. And whenever we get around this weekend, you can't help but think about the troops and all that stuff. I can't help but think about not only that, but lacrosse, because this is the weekend. This is what lacrosse guys and gals look forward to. It's championship weekend. And we had an interesting weekend. You get a couple of relative newcomers in Ohio State and Towson battling it out, and then a couple of experienced programs and now coaches. And it's hard to say that for Denver, because Denver almost got you. I almost had the mute button. Denver is not a perennial power, but they have been a power at the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Maryland
recently.
has been to 11, or now what is this was their 11th championship game, 12th championship game, something like that. 11 or 12, somewhere in that neck of the woods. They went 9 without a title. 9 straight appearances without a title. They've been there the past 3. So Maryland has been there. Tillman may be the best coach to never win a championship up until today. Maryland getting it done in a sloppy game at first, not the most entertaining game, but an effective game.
And you mentioned it, and the fact that they got here in the first place is a huge deal because they got past Trevor Baptiste. And plus, you had Donahue throw it in. Big conversation piece now is crease dives. You thought that they tied the game with 9.2 seconds left. Denver, Ohio State. No. That's not the rule here.
And but seconds before that, Maryland had one
he
overturned.
Yeah.
So it went back and forth. The big takeaway, I think, is going to be 2 things. One, you just pointed out with the crease, and will that stir up a little bit of discussion? But the more immediate need, I think, is going to be at the shot clock level. And we can discuss that in the upcoming weeks, but I think those are the 2 areas.
Yeah, pretty low scoring, again. Yeah.
Yes. Now, we noted a couple of things here. OSU did a tremendous job on defense today on one player in particular, and it was the Twarton Trophy finalist, Matt Rambo. They kept him in check. Only a goal and assist. A highlight-worthy goal at the end for Rambo, but they did a nice job on him. He was very ineffective. They had scoring in other places. They got production offensively from some uncharacteristic guys that don't normally deliver on the offensive end. Tim Rohans, in particular, led all scorers with 3. Dylan Maltz, the Syracuse transfer, 2 goals and an assist. He was one of the only guys not to get the All-American mention, and that's a big-time player they've got there. That's a nice piece.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I thought you were going to dive in there. You're looking at something to say.
I was ready. But yeah, I mean, Rotan's is big because back when they didn't have Heacock during the regular season, they split in the regular season. He goes out, gets a hattie. Today, had a hattie, plays good against good teams. Obviously, this is a pretty good team he's playing against today. Ohio State's there for a reason, even though they're a pretty new name to big-time success in the sport.
It's a championship weekend.
But yeah, it's not only Rambo. Heacock didn't do as much as you're used to him doing, but he did, I think, towards the end of the second half there, I think his shot that went there, a little bouncer right by the line, I think it was on the scoring part of the line, half of the line, but I don't think.
Real close.
I'm not quite sure why they didn't at least check it.
I don't think they can. I think it's a rule thing.
Because he has to hit the camera there. But
the notes that I had here were OSU really failed to clear the ball, and that killed their chances. It killed any hope that you could get any momentum going on offense. Maryland struggled out of the gate, but it was only for a few minutes, and once they got rolling, I felt like the Buckeyes never could climb back up. They were always struggling just to get above the surface and get some air again, and they never really got there. Tom Carey played unbelievable. 13 saves, really gave the Buckeyes a chance. And you had mentioned these 2 teams met 2 times previous. This was the first time, as you noted, you got this nugget, the first time that in a championship setting was a third meeting between 2 teams in one season.
Yes, that's huge. And you mentioned Tom Carey. He was a big part of them winning and being able to stave off and come back against Towson. And in this game, and while we were watching it, both of us were saying a little bit, maybe taking a few too many risks, but at the same time, he was making a good amount of saves off those risks.
He almost had to.
The second, whoa, I really lost my voice.
Oh, boy, he's going down here, Matty. Down for the count. Get the kid some water. He's losing it.
Oh, it fully went out on me there. Whoa, boy.
You got more moisture in your eyes than you do in your throat right now.
Yeah, so Tom Carey, he would make these crazy plays, maybe a little bit too risky to begin with. And the second he would get it out and clear it, it seems like immediately stick check, possession changing.
Real happy for John Tillman. Corning native, so an upstate guy, played at Cornell, class guy. He's been there like 7 years, something like that. He finally gets a championship. Just lost his mother earlier this season, so what a story that is.
Yeah.
He's built something there. And
absolutely.
They had a legendary coach whose name escapes me. I can picture the face. I can't think of the name off the top of my head right now. But he has taken that program over and elevated them. You want to call it to that next level. I hate that phrase, but really for them, it's they could breach the championship game. They could get there, but they could never. They were always the bridesmaid, never the bride. This time, they were the top dog. They got it done this time, and it was, as I said, not the most entertaining championship game. It was a 9-6 final.
Bruiser. It was a bruiser.
It was. It really was hesitate to say classic, but classic Big Ten lacrosse.
Yeah, and that's what you see kind of throughout the sports. That's why a lot of people think Big Ten athletics, especially when it comes to the boys' side of things, or the men's side of things. Sorry, guys. It's a little bit more boring because they really like to get on you. Defense is a bigger deal, and scoring, on the other half of that equation, just isn't up there.
All right, A block in the books. Around the bump music. Whenever I get done talking here, we will get Travis Eldridge, the anchor host of the Lax Sports Network. We're going to further this discussion. What did he hear in the locker room? What were guys saying afterwards? We'll talk to Travis about that next. It's TBD rolling on after this.
You're you. I'm me. I hope you listened to the first part of this show to learn our names. We're back here on To Be Determined.
At Sports by Bond with @Trabs Matt. It never fails. It's the B block. That music, the reporter music. We're pleased to be joined by the anchor host, very official title.
I like it.
Of the Lax Sports Network. Travis Eldridge, the voice on the other end of the phone call. Travis, what's going on, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on.
It is our pleasure. The pleasure all ours, I think is the phrase, is what it's supposed to be. As I mentioned, he is the anchor host of the Lax Sports Network. It's a Lax weekend, Memorial Day. This is what I look forward to all year long. So we'll dive right into it. A Big Ten matchup, as we were just talking about off mic or before pre-interview, I guess you could say. Bit of a slug match. Maryland winning their first championship in 42 years. The third time being the charm for the Terps. How were they able to get it done today?
It was a Big Ten game. The weather even felt like it in Foxborough here today. It was kind of rainy. It was freezing cold. I was out there for a couple hours pregame, and man, even our jacket wasn't enough to stay warm. It was cold. It was windy. It felt kind of like a Big Ten football game as opposed to a Big Ten lacrosse game being played Memorial Day weekend. But I mean, the interesting thing about this Maryland team is they got it done with some unlikely suspects. You had a couple of guys who weren't named, Matt Rambo or Colin Heacock, who are the two stars for this team offensively, that got it done and scored a couple of goals. Tim Rotanz had a hat trick, and while he's not a big name, he's a weapon on this team, and they found ways around the fact that Matt Rambo and Colin Heacock were shut off for a little bit of time, and they used them kind of as decoys at times and played a physical, methodical Maryland type of game. The narrative on this Maryland team for years has been, we're going to slow it down, we're going to take our time offensively, and that changed a little bit at times this year. They were able to get up and down. They weren't afraid to go and transition in unsettled situations. But this championship game, they kind of went back to that narrative of slugging it out, making it a low possession game, and they were able to come out on top. The interesting part was face-off-wise, they were able to neutralize Jake Withers, one of the top 5 face-off guys in the country. And doing that helped them control the ball more, and they settled everything down possession-wise and won it in the 6-on-6.
Yeah, I thought that face-off thing was huge. They really did play
Just
well
the run he had to go through
Yeah.
as an injury replacement, nonetheless.
Yep.
So Ohio State put up a fight, but turnovers, especially late, killed any chance of a comeback. What did the Buckeyes have to say after the game?
The Buckeyes and Coach Nick Myers, they were happy to have gotten to this point. This was the first time they had ever been to championship weekend. This, of course, their first ever trip to a national championship game. This is a team that all season long got over the hurdle that had kind of been holding them back. In the Big Ten, this is a team that over the last 5 years has been on the cusp of being a team that's in the upper half of the Big Ten, but they haven't consistently beaten the Blue Bloods, the Hopkins, the Marylands on a consistent basis. This year they did that. They beat Hopkins during the regular season. They beat Maryland in the regular season. They beat a really good Denver team in the regular season. So they got over all those hurdles, and then they get to the playoffs and they get the 3 seed, and they lived up to those expectations. They were able to get to the championship game for the first time ever. So I think they were happy with what they built. Nick Myers was very, very happy for Maryland, considering he's a Big Ten foe. It's good for the conference, the fact that Maryland is a national champion, and I think this is something they can build off of. They do lose a lot senior-wise, but I think this is a big step forward for this program, and especially for Nick Myers as a head coach.
It'll be huge on the recruiting trail. Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think a lot of people understood that the Buckeyes have been a Division I program for 53 or since 1953, I think it was. So, you're over 50 years as a D1 program, and now you're finally making that step. I think Nick Meyer's a big reason for that. You alluded to this point I'm going to bring up next a little early on, that it was the kind of unknown cast of characters that got it done. Rambo was really held in check for most of today. How did the Terps overcome, really what OSU did in shutting down Matt Rambo?
They got a lot of other options. I mean, you look at all championship weekend long. I believe Matt Rambo had 4 points in 2 games. It was not a Matt Rambo masterpiece of a championship weekend. He was held pretty in check in that semifinal against Denver, and here today he didn't do anything special. Had a great goal at the end, which may be his Tewaaraton Award defining moment, considering he was the last guy standing when it came to the 5 finalists. But they had a lot of other cast of characters. Connor Kelly was terrific throughout this tournament. He was really, really good for them in the semifinal win against Denver. A trio of goals, including 2 in the second half, which were absolute lasers. I was on the sideline for the 2 of them, and everybody said on the field just went, holy cow, that was laser. He had that type of performance. So between Connor Kelly, today you had Tim Rotans, who stepped up with a hat trick, and they had enough weapons. They go probably about 6 deep when it comes to weapons offensively, and they utilized all of them. They probably weren't as deep as Ohio State in terms of weapons going into this game, but their guys, 3 through 6 showed up, and Ohio State's weren't able to quite carry the load.
So Corning native John Tillman, first championship as a head coach, comes a few months after he unfortunately lost his mother. What did he say after the game?
He was pretty emotional afterward. And if you were watching the ESPN2 broadcast, he was emotional with Paul Carcaterra there on the sidelines when Kark asked him about his mother passing away. And then in the post-game interview room that we were streaming here on Lax Sports Network when I got back to the studio, he didn't really have the words to describe it. I know he had family there that was there celebrating with him. And I think that for him, this team is kind of really taken over as his family. Obviously, he has his normal family, but he feels such a bond with these players. And I think if you saw the embrace that he had with Matt Rambo on the sidelines, I think that shows you just what, especially the senior class, has meant to him. I mean, he came in 7 years ago now, and this was really one of his first classes of seniors. And I think what they went through, and this being their 3rd straight trip to championship weekend, to the national championship, 4th straight trip to championship weekend, and going through that with these guys, I think, while as happy as he was for himself that he finally got that national championship, I think he was happier for the seniors, knowing that after everything they went through, all the pressure, 42 years of pressure building up on these guys and being there year in and year out, and having the narrative be they can't win the big game, to finally get over that hurdle with this class, I think meant a lot to him.
Tillman, a guy that when he first came in and took over Maryland, I remember thinking, that's an interesting hire. And, not that long, not that many years goes by and the guy gets a national championship. For a while, I think he was the best coach without a title. So he moves into that rarefied air now of having one. Let's go broader here for this entire really tournament, or maybe even just the weekend, if there's a moment that sticks out. Was there one moment that sticks out to you from the tournament, the weekend, what have you?
I think the moment from early in the tournament that stands out is the North Carolina-Albany game. That Saturday night of opening weekend was a sight to behold. Which coming Selection Sunday, when everybody saw that game on the calendar, Albany, North Carolina, in Albany, New York, people said, whoa, this is the defending champs going on the road to play this Albany team that had been so good this year. And that game lived up to the hype. Albany jumped out to this incredible lead. North Carolina came back. It was an absolute slugfest. Probably one of my favorite games of the entire season. And in a driving rainstorm, Albany puts a record crowd in the stands. That's insane. I mean, especially when you look at, lacrosse fans everywhere. It's tough to get people to show up in a terrible weather game, and they all showed up. And that's the moment from early in the season. And I think just the buildup for me and how many times I said over the course of our pregame shows on Saturday and then again today that Maryland has been suffering from a 4-decade-plus title drought. For them to finally get a championship. I'm not a Maryland fan. I went to Syracuse. I love the Orange. I was very disappointed they weren't here for championship weekend. And so by no stretch of the imagination am I a Maryland fan. But as a sports fan and someone who has covered this this entire season in this sport, I felt so good for that team to get over the hurdle because, I mean, no 19, 20, 21-year-old kid should have to carry the pressure of 40-plus years of disappointment. And they had been so close. This is their 10th time in the championship game. Yeah. Since 1975, since they won it all. They were 0 for 9 until today. That is insane to be that close and not win. So that they finally got the big one. I feel for that. I feel really good for that fan base and really good for those kids.
So going back a couple days now, earlier in championship weekend, what might have ended up the most exciting goal of the weekend. Denver's Connor Donahue seemingly tying it versus Ohio State, 9.2 seconds left in regulation. Disallowed. So do you think it would be better for the sport if crease dives and those kind of rules were out of the game and you were able to do crease dives?
Well, if you ask Denver coach Bill Tierney, he's going to tell you, yeah, absolutely, there should be crease dives back in the game. He said it in the press conference afterward and saying that they need a shot clock and this, that, and the other thing. The losing coach is always going to be on that side. Though, if you remember correctly, earlier in that sequence, just like a minute or so before, Colin Heacock for Maryland had a goal disallowed because he was in the crease on a very similar play. So if you have crease dives, you'd probably trade goals in that situation. Denver still loses by 1. So ultimately, probably ends up a similar type of scenario. But I think it's an interesting conversation. Major League Lacrosse, in the professional game, crease dives are allowed. You look in the international game, you have crease dives that are allowed. Even with the U19 World Championships that we saw last summer that coincidentally, Nick Myers, Ohio State's head coach, was the head coach for that U.S. team that won gold. But it's allowed there. It's allowed in the indoor game in the National Lacrosse League. So I think it's certainly something to be considered, but I think there are a lot of people that Ryan Flanagan, who plays now for the New York Lizards, he was playing for the Charlotte Hounds in Major League Lacrosse last year. His season came to an end when he tore his ACL because a guy dove into the crease and he was trying to defend and was in the wrong place at the wrong time. So there are safety reasons. I know I've spoken to coaches in Major League Lacrosse when they talk about crease dives, and they're always concerned about their goalies because if somebody dives in, a goalie is moving towards the ball as they're told to attack the ball and try to make a save. You're going the wrong direction. It's kind of similar to a quarterback trying to step into a throw in the pocket and having somebody roll up on his knee. So there are certainly safety reasons that come into play when you're talking about crease dives. It's certainly an exciting play. I love when you watch guys in the NLL or MLL fly from behind the cage and go skying through and one-handed, put one home and dunk it over a goalie. It's one of the most exciting, and it's a highlight reel play. I think in college it may be. I think there are other things they may bring in first, something like the shot clock or maybe a 2-point arc or something that can spice up the game. I think at this point, because of safety reasons, I don't know if I see it coming back, but it's kind of the world we live in when you talk about the safety of players and weighing that over the excitement of a play.
You could make the argument that all four Final Four teams that made it to championship weekend played that slower style of offense. You mentioned the shot clock. I wonder if that's the diving will probably not be the first thing that's addressed. But is the shot clock the first thing to be addressed? I mean, you looked at the championship game today. Nobody made it to double figures. That, to me, is just kind of a glaring – all four teams, Towson especially. I mean, you said you're a Syracuse alum. I'm a Syracuse fan having grown up in Syracuse. We're used to run and gun. We're used to the up-and-down style. A team like Towson deflated that Orange team because they just decided we're going to pack it in on defense and hold the ball on offense. And really all four teams had that similar style.
Here's the thing with Syracuse. This year they did not run and gun. They were very content to slow it up and play a methodical pace because that's kind of the type of personnel they had on this team. A shot clock, the narrative, so much is based on championship weekend when it comes to college lacrosse. It kind of sets the landscape for rule changes, for attendance numbers, for the popularity of the sport. Whether you like it or not, it's a big measuring stick when it comes to the minds of a lot of people in the sport. last year's championship game with Maryland and North Carolina and the championship weekend as a whole, as you had Brown running and gunning, was the complete opposite of this year. So I think it put a lot of those talks kind of on ice because it was, oh, no one has to worry about this. The teams that run and gun can still win because they were here in championship weekend. It silences some of those concerns because the teams that made it were the teams that run and gun. This year changes that. So this year is a rule-changing year. They'll meet and try to discuss some new rules. They tried some different things out in the fall as well as some new test rules during fall ball. So it'll be interesting to see when they get together, the rules committee for lacrosse, what things are get put on the table, especially after how slow things were. I don't understand how the women's game can have a shot clock and the men's game can't. If you already have these shot clocks installed in all of these facilities across the country, especially Division I think Division II and Division III on the women's side had a couple more years to figure out and you get the equipment in place. But if you already have these shot clocks installed, I don't think there's any reason why you can't. It takes things off the referee's hands because you never know when they're going to put that 30-second shot clock on. For some referees, they think, oh, well, we'll wait 2 minutes. For some, they wait 1 minute and 15 seconds. So why not just put a consistent 90 seconds across the board and say, this is it. It takes something off their mind. They can be worried about officiating the actual game on the field, and it just brings an even playing field across the board because at this point it depends on which referee and which crew is trying to determine the shot clock. And as it's been well documented through a lot of the broadcasts, people, teams aren't stupid. They'll take a couple of shots that sail way over the goal just to fake like they're going to go at the goal, and it fools the referees 9 times out of 10. So I think it's a no-brainer, but it's going to be interesting to see if enough people get on board to say, yeah, I think this is the way to go.
I would agree. I think it's a no-brainer.
So getting away from lacrosse a little bit now. So we have 5 more questions. First one,
all right.
What's your alma mater?
I already told you, Syracuse. Go Orange.
One of the orange. Your secret talent.
Ooh, secret talent. Man, I don't know.
This one has seemed to stump people in recent weeks.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a good question or a bad question, man.
Man, I don't know if I have a secret talent. I feel like most of my talents I try to utilize because that's how be successful. I don't know. I mean, some people that know me now probably don't know I'm a really good tennis player. So we'll go with that.
There we go.
Yeah, that's definitely.
Had no idea, so that counts.
All right. Which actor would play you in a movie?
Oh man. You guys sent me these questions. I should have prepared. I've been too busy thinking about lacrosse.
Nothing wrong with that.
I don't know. Who do you guys think would play me well?
Golly.
Put you back on the spot.
I know. I don't even know if it's necessarily about looks. I think it's more. I always go based on. I think personality to me. I guess I don't know. Because I would want Bradley Cooper to play me, but I don't think I look anything like him.
Yeah, I like Bradley Cooper. We'll go with him. I think he's cool. So let's do that. I'll take your advice.
That's fine. Favorite beer.
Favorite beer, Sip of Sunshine. It's a double IPA out of Connecticut. Very rare, very difficult to get, but when you can get it, it's really good.
Very nice.
We like those odd ones, though.
Yeah, why not?
Cool. I like the odd ones.
All right, one last one. Where can we find you on the internet?
LaxSportsNetwork.com or the Lax Sports Network app. You can also find me on Twitter at TG Eldridge.
Very nice.
Excellent. Travis Eldridge.
Get all the plugs in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Got to do
Might
it.
as well.
Got to do it. Travis Eldridge, the anchor host of Lax Sports Net. We appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you.
Good stuff, guys. Thanks.
All right, around the block, around the bump music, we are headed into the segments. Reading here, personal B-side story for myself. The number this week, 44, and railroad crossings. Who the heck is running these? Who? We'll dive into that next.
These are words. Bring them inside of you. We're back here on 2BD. 2BD. Yeah.
2BD. Bring them inside of you. Interesting choice of words there.
Off the cuff. Cuffing off.
To be determined at Sports by Bond, Stephen Bond, with at Travs Matt Traybold. The show on Twitter, if you want to find us on the interwebs, at TBD_show on Twitter, To Be Determined Show on Instagram. You want to email the show, help Maddie with the intros, you can do that. TBDmailman@gmail.com. This is C Block. We'll dive into some segments here. B-side story. And a sad B-side story.
Yeah.
Pour some out. Longtime sports reporter Frank DeFord passing away Monday at the age of 78. He was with Sports Illustrated and NPR for a number of decades. I believe he had a career spanning 50 years plus. He was a fixture on HBO's Real Sports. I know that's where I came to love Frank DeFord and then
Same here.
Later discover his works on NPR. Sad. A very sad B-side story today. I was sad to see Frank go. He had just retired earlier this month. So you talk about a guy that, lived to do what he did for a living. Well, Frank DeFord, one of those guys.
Yeah, when he lost that part of his life that obviously encompassed him, it obviously, you would think,
he lived
made
for
him
it.
get up in the morning.
Exactly.
And then when that goes away, you think about that a lot with these. It doesn't always happen with just celebrities too, but
right,
just kind of everybody.
He was a Baltimore native. I know we've got some listeners down in Baltimore. He wrote 18 books. Half of them were novels. DeFord received the National Humanitarians Medal in 2013 from President Obama. Named to the Sportscasters Writers Hall of Fame, a 6-time Sports Writer of the Year winner. Won a Peabody, an Emmy, and a Lifetime Achievement Award for literary sports writing.
I think what's so big about that, I was very surprised to see a lot of times with sports writers, they write a lot of historical sports books, and I love them.
Sure.
I have nothing against that, but the fact that he wrote so many novels is just a testament to just his writing prowess, his clout.
I brought out the Frank DeFord jacket, what I deem as my Frank DeFord jacket.
Vintage?
It's a vintage look on a sports jacket here. Very small checkered black and white. So for the video version, you'll see that. We'll try to get a picture out. I know Maddie was against the picture for social media, but
it's not tailored.
Well, I'm also not wearing a full. I'm just
That
wearing
is
a
true.
T-shirt.
That
so
is true.
It's not the full.
Which
it's
would make it
literally just the jacket.
That would make it a better Instagram photo. You just stay as put.
R.I.P. to Frank DeFord, one of the best. When I think of Frank, I think of just a storyteller, and one of the best storytellers to ever do it.
I mean, he came known to me through Real Sports as well.
Yeah, and he was fun to watch. He was fun to watch deliver those stories. So your B-side story, Frank DeFord gone too early at the age of 78. By the numbers, the number this week, 44, as in the number of years the U. That's right, Miami's baseball team qualified for the NCAA tournament. However, this year's Canes were not among the 64 teams selected for the field. The streak beginning in 1972, and over 44 years, the Canes winning 4 championships. Matt, the longest tournament streak in any sport in NCAA tournament history. And, of course, the icing on the cake of this.
Not for them.
Of everyone besides the U, ACC rival Florida State now with the longest streak, and it's at 40. So there's a chance that the Noles end up surpassing this record.
Not far away, and they're a program that gets in obviously a lot. So you would think, you would thought that with the Hurricanes as well, but you'd think that 4 years for prowess like that is nothing. But you had another really long streak in Rice, which isn't good in a lot of sports, especially because they kind of play up. There's a somewhat smaller school in terms of a lot of these powers.
Sure.
But in baseball, they're very good, and it looks like they were not going to continue theirs as well, but beat Southern Miss. Southern Miss was going to get in anyways, stole a bid, so you have these two stalwarts in the game, and maybe those Owls took away from the Hurricanes.
You got to do that at some point, and what an impressive streak this is. I don't care what the sport is, how easy it is, how difficult it is. To do it in baseball, Division I think is very difficult. I know there are a ton of teams out there, but it's only 64 that get in. So this is an impressive feat for the U, and it stinks if you're part of that 44 that the Seminoles are right on your heels and there's only 4 seasons to go. This year, I believe, is going to be 40 for them. So they're right around the corner. That's got to be the most painful part.
It doesn't matter what point or what generation within that 44 years, if you are baseball inclined whatsoever, you remember college teams. And obviously, well, not obviously. I mean, I'm more of an MLB guy than a college baseball guy. I think most people would fall along those lines, but you just remember these teams because of the guys that get drafted early and then go on and become big names. I remember not even really too long ago, you had Ricky Weeks' little brother Jamil Weeks and Yonder Alonso, both first-round picks when they were seniors. Unbelievable. It's just such star power. The Alex Rodriguez, even though he didn't really spend too much time in the area, I'm pretty sure he bankrolled the stadium. But you just have all of these high-profile aspects.
Miami?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So that's just another high-profile aspect of a program you didn't think was going to bow out. I don't want to say this early, but at least comparison.
They didn't even get in. Yeah. Bow out in their season.
Just bow out. Yeah, just bow out in this trend of theirs.
I'm not the biggest fan of college baseball. I don't like the tournament. I like the idea of one and done. Like we have in basketball, like we have in lacrosse, like we have in hockey.
These super regionals.
It's too much going on there.
Well, plus
these guys
have been out of school for a little bit already, and this goes on for so much. It's like halfway through the summer, it's done.
We're just getting started into this.
Oh my gosh, Omaha's well down the road. The grand scheme.
All right, so the number this week is 44. Let's go to Get Off My Lawn. Anyone who's a fan of the show on at least social media or has listened a few times knows that we have a Monday morning tradition. We won't get to do it this Monday because it was Memorial Day, and
this is Monday now.
It's Monday now.
Monday morning is gone.
We're recording the show. Matt and I have a tradition of going to a local diner and grabbing some breakfast after what is undoubtedly a long night. We're usually working on the show till 2 or 3 in the morning. So we go get breakfast, and we drive back, and we proceed to do some editing on the show and prepare for the next week. It's just, we like to get ahead of things, like to stay on top of it if we can. We travel back, and along some local road, I think we'll call it Route 31, because that's the first thing that jumped out to my mind.
I have no idea.
There's a railroad crossing. And this is, like I said, we don't go in the morning, we go in the afternoon to get breakfast. We usually hit it
I gotta wait for you to wake up.
That's true. I'm usually the
Hey, you're pretty. You
rouser.
need your beauty sleep.
We'll call it 12:30, 12:45. We're coming back home, and that's giving it a couple of minutes or two, giving us a buffer, if you will. And the railroad crossings in town, right in the middle of town,
first time
go down.
Yeah.
We've never had this happen before, and I think, this is an odd time. Not only is it noon, so you're going to have a lot of movers and shakers
for our commerce and our imports exports. It's not really a time.
Typically, that stuff happens at night. The railroad stuff happens at night. So we see it, the lights flashing. We have to stop because there are a number of cars in front of us. And we sit there. And we continue to sit there. And we continue to sit there. 4 turns into 5, turns into 6, maybe 7 minutes go by. And I'm running out of data on my phone.
Just like a clean hour, I would say. We were there.
A clean hour. It was less than 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But an inconvenience nonetheless. And I'm running out of data on my phone because I can only refresh Twitter so many times and check Instagram and what have you.
Tweets don't happen that quick.
Tweets do not happen that quick. I can only check it so many times. And nothing happens. No train comes.
The flashing lights go up?
The flashing lights just go back up, and everyone goes about their business.
And everyone had that pause, like, is it okay? Is it still coming?
Well, that's the thing. If you're at the front, you've really got to be, you're either going to gun it over the tracks, you got to be very hesitant going over the tracks thinking, nothing came. What's happening here? Was there a turtle? Were there mice that were crossing? My question is this. Who is in charge of that? How does this happen?
It's probably all computers.
And I get it was only,
computers.
I get it was only 7, 8, 9 minutes of our day, but an inconvenience nonetheless.
But and just kind of an unsettling, I have no idea what just happened kind of deal. You look left, you look right, and you just kind of, I hope I'm good. I hope it's not one of those bullet trains. 'Cause I don't even know. It was really, really bizarre.
I don't think the bullet train's coming through Beeville, but I appreciate the concern nonetheless. So whoever the heck runs the railroad crossings, get off my lawn. Figure it out.
Yeah.
It was annoying.
It was annoying. Figure it out.
All right, let's jump to Twitter takes. This one, normally we go with a kind of happy-go-lucky, funny Twitter take. This one was a very serious...
We're showing our versatility.
That's a good point. The Denver Post firing a reporter after a controversial tweet. Terry Fry, and I believe I've got the last name
I'm pretty sure.
correct, a now former Denver Post reporter tweeting, and I'm quoting here, "Nothing specifically personal, but I'm very uncomfortable with a Japanese driver winning the Indy 500 during Memorial Day weekend." The tweet has since been deleted. Fry apologized after a barrage of criticism, and he simply tweeted, "I apologize." He later issued a longer apology to the company and to the winner of the 500, Takuma Sato. Takuma Sato. Fry tried to explain that his father fought in World War II, but the damage was done at that point. The Denver Post firing Fry, saying the tweet doesn't represent what we believe, nor I should be what we stand for. That was a glaring typo on my part. Go ahead and mark that down, Maddie. To me, this really boils down to a simple question. Are we as a let me start that over again, Maddie. We'll retake this one.
Are we as a society
too sensitive, or was Fry out of line with the tweet? That's, to me, is the question with this, because I think those are the two sides to this coin that you're going to see, that either we're too sensitive as a country or this tweet was completely out of line. And I fall into the tweet was out of line.
Yeah, I'm not sure that. I mean, I definitely respect the service of his father, but I'm not
100%.
sure. I'm not sure
100%.
if that's what you're playing.
Why
as
is the Indy 500 the time or place to bring that up?
And it's similar, because I remember when I was in college, you had, I don't know what the outlet was. I'm not going to say any outlet just because I'm not quite sure, but it was about Jeremy Lin. It was the Linsanity era, and there was a headline that said something along the lines of a C in the armor. And there's just so many other words you can use at that point.
Oh, on ESPN, right? Wasn't it ESPN?
I think it was. I wasn't sure, so I wasn't going to say.
I do remember that. And I think somebody lost their job over that, as they should.
Sure. And this is even more blatant. I don't think there's not even a question at all.
Right.
Because he wasn't even trying to have a question to be about it with phrasing and whatnot in a headline. This was just a statement. Just cut and dry, black and white.
It is a tough situation, because I think you'll find, as I mentioned with that question, I think you'll find both sides to that coin. And that he was tweeting it. He was just giving his opinion. That's what you pay reporters to do. Aren't we entitled to an opinion? Yeah, to a certain extent, yes. The First Amendment, protects you of that right. But you got to use your head. It's 2017.
Yeah, but you're still an employee, so they still have that chance to go against.
Beyond just the employee thing, I just think from a morality standpoint.
Yeah, okay.
Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not talking necessarily about the employment standpoint, but from a morality
him being
standpoint,
fired, I mean,
you should look at that before you send it and go,
yeah,
is this offending someone? And if it's blatantly obvious that it's a joke and there's maybe a little offense to it, okay, whatever. That
But he's not Daniel Tosh, and he's a public figure that's supposed to be.
He's a reporter.
Yeah, that's along a different line, a different vein. Yes.
So yeah, that's the get off my lawn moment this week. A little more serious, but as Matt said, we're trying to be diverse. All right, a new segment for you, and this one is interesting. Matt, I'm going to give you full credit for this one, because you had said to me, "Did you see some of the ridiculous products that you can find on Amazon?" And I've never really delved into lists on Amazon. I usually just go and click for what I want, search for it. But the lists can be an interesting place. So we're going to try to bring you, every so often, a couple of top products, and put quotes around the word top. They're top sellers. They're interesting products.
But merit? That's not top and merit a lot.
Exactly. Good point.
Community values? Not a lot.
No. So the first one we've got here are, of course, and this should come as no surprise because you see them everywhere over social media, those fidget spinners. Product typically listed for under $5, as I wrote here. And there was one that we saw listed for about $16 or $17, which I think is insane.
And I said, oh, does it come with $12? Because, cash?
Exactly. You get the spinner and $12 and change. This reinforces our shrinking attention span as a nation, as I put it, because we already have these devices in our hands that we are distracted with enough, walking, driving.
I could spin this.
You could technically spin the
phone. It's plugged
in,
so I can't really spin it on my fingers. But
no, that to me is amazing that product is up there as the top. I guess it does. It shouldn't surprise me.
It's so big, so fast.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. I mean,
Who
I've never
created these things?
I've never had one. Oh, just John Fidget. No, but I've never had.
I don't think it's a guy.
I've never had one of them in my hands. I just want to kind of know what they're about.
I think we need to
That's why
invest in
people
one of
keep
these.
buying them because they're
That's
cheap.
true.
They're like, I just want to know how it works.
That's true.
They buy one, but the story you're talking to me about back, I don't know, was it a week or two ago? Like just look at the top sellers list. The top 20 are all fidget spinners.
Yes.
Like
yes.
they're all the top ones are these fidget spinners. It's absurd.
It's insane. All right, the second one here, and I'm going to try to dance around this as cleanly as I can here.
Oh.
3D silicone gel padded bike underwear shorts. And this is the title. I'm reading this verbatim. Breathable, lightweight for men or women.
Well, for
and if you just go ahead and do me a favor, pause the podcast, fire up the old Amazon machine, and search that. Now let me welcome you back, and
that's not long enough.
Sorry.
Oh, they paused. I
They
forgot.
paused it though. They paused. I'm not going to pause. We got to keep things rolling here for those who don't go and search it, because that'll be a majority of people. A disturbing sight is all I can put it as. Very disturbing. When it says 3D, there's something that's bulging out. Okay, that's what we'll put it that way.
That's just extra padding.
That's a
but
tease.
For the former, on those last few words you said, so the men's side of things, hey, I know chafing is a habit.
It's true.
It's probably not bad.
I'm sure this is a great product. I'm sure it's a phenomenal product, but an odd one.
Moisture
nonetheless.
wicking, probably. Just wick some moisture. Because I got moisture down there.
Okay, all right.
No, when
Too much
exercise is being conducted.
Okay, all right, fair enough. All right, the third product, Lego Classic Green, and I have in your parentheses, grass, base plate, and then a quick shout-out to FOTS, Toby Matika.
Who's got girls? I assume there's Legos. I'm sure that's like the worst thing that could happen to you probably as a parent, stepping on a Lego barefoot.
So this probably wasn't funny if we just read it to you, but you just go and look at it, and it's just a plain base plate that's supposed to be grass. And yes, I think the stepping of the Legos is a good point.
Hey, base plates need love too.
I feel like that's part of training to be.
Or it's just loose, and that's how they get in the ground to step on. You need to have them be on a base plate. They're just trying.
I know when you're going to get that excited next time. Peeking. You went real crazy there. I think part of training to be a parent is stepping on Legos repeatedly. So next time we get Toby on,
he's got to callus up.
Or
so
if you
he's got to
ask him when you're at work tomorrow, today, whenever it is you work with him next. Just ask him about that, because
what you have to do is before they even come out the womb, you got
the children. You're saying
you
got
got
talking about the Legos for a second.
It's like that's not where they're supposed to be. You just got to callus up. You just got to put a bunch on the floor, bite your lip, and just go for it. That's how you get ready for when the real thing comes. Well, that is also the real thing. So let's get Band-Aids ready. A little Neosporin.
So some interesting products on Amazon, and I just want to get out the next interesting product for us to talk about.
The
segue to our friends at $10 Tea Club. If you're like me, you hate the idea of shopping. It's a time killer, and you usually end up spending more for the brand than anything else. Enter our boys at $10 Tea Club, New York-based company. When I mean New York, I mean upstate New York, not the city. They've completely solved my problems. They've combined the convenience of online shopping with a great product. Guys, nothing's worse than shopping. And ladies, well, nothing's better than online shopping. You can easily hide those products from the significant other. The best part, these guys have truly lived up to their name. Great-looking, feeling T-shirts starting at just $10. They're simple, they're stylish, and they're comfortable. I typed those words, not the company. I've saved some time and some money with $10 Tea Club. You can, too. Head over to $10teaclub.com, T-E-E on the T. Use promo code TBD. Save 15% on your first purchase. That's $10teaclub.com, promo code TBD. Guys, get on it. Use it. Great products, as I said. I've got an order hopefully coming in sometime soon. I don't remember when I ordered it last, so it may already be here, and I just didn't notice.
I feel like butter.
They're very convenient. I want to give you the idea that the shipping takes forever. It does not. They come right in.
They're like butter.
All right, we'll bump some music. We'll tell you what's headed next. It's time to get the sticks out, Maddie. Improve the short game. That's where all the strokes are saved. PGA professional owner of the Impact Snap golfing device, Marty Nowicki, around the corner. Get his thoughts on the short game and golf next.
sit back and relax. We're delving into some more TBD right now.
The D block here on To Be Determined. At Sports by Bond, Stephen Bond with at Trabs Matt Traybold. We'll welcome in, I should say. We'll welcome in Marty Nowicki, PGA professional, the owner of the Impact Snap device. Marty, happy Memorial Day.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. Happy Memorial Day.
The stolen golf guru, if you will, for To Be Determined. Selfishly, my golf game is not where it needs to be, so I figured hopefully we can learn something via podcast. Thanks to Marty, and I'm sure the listeners will learn something as well, because Marty's the best, and there's no debate about that.
No debate.
This week, wanted to talk about the short game, because as I've been told, it's the most important part to the golf game, and it is undoubtedly my worst. Marty, where do we start when we try to bring back the short game?
Well, I think the easiest way to start would be really to isolate what the lead wrist is doing. So if the lead wrist is not cocking or uncocking, if it becomes flat in the front half of the wrist or in a state of flexion, that would be a good starting point, because then your power source really becomes your trail arm. And when you isolate or stabilize the lead wrist, that really limits how much power you can have. And I call that the basic chip shot. And I think most people need to get really good at the basic stuff before we start talking about how to hit the high soft one over a bunker, with more spin. So basically, it's the lead wrist is isolated, relatively flat. The lead arm is not doing much other than getting pulled back and pushed forward by the trail hand. And that way the power is really coming from the trailing forearm and elbow. That's what's loading to limit the power. And what'll happen is the club will start hitting the ground in the same spot. You'll start getting a very consistent chip shot, and which makes it easier to predict what the ball's going to do. And you can use that with just about any club, sand wedge, pitching wedge, 9-iron, 8-iron, and then just start, anticipating what the outcome is going to be as far as rollout goes.
Now, would you say improving the chipping game is more of a matter of adding more clubs or perfecting those ones you already have?
I think it's really getting good at the basic motion. When I was growing up, most sand wedges were 55 degrees and most pitching wedges were 50 degrees. And no one had a gap wedge and no one had a lob wedge. So it's like you just figured out how to hit a solid, crisp shot that stopped on the green, where you needed it. So, and, back then, I think a lot of the instruction was talking about just take your 8-iron and roll the ball as, if you can roll it. And if you can't roll it, then use your pitching wedge or sand wedge.
Gotcha.
So, and even Seve Ballesteros, who's considered one of the best of ever in the short game, he grew up with a 3-iron only. So he learned how to hit high soft stuff with a 3-iron. So by the time they put a 55-degree sand wedge, he looked at it and said, well, this is easy. So he had all the shots already.
That's insane. Only a 3-iron?
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I've got to have the hybrids for 3 and 4. I can't imagine trying to chip with that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
It really is.
If you create the angle, it's I try and teach my juniors that in our clinics. It's like, look, figure it out. Let's create a couple different angles.
Sure.
See how the club has to sit in order to hit a ball straight up in the air over a bunker.
Are there any drills we can do to practice chipping?
Well, I think basic drills, if you just simply put your hands in a praying position, move your lead wrist forward, and just try and keep the wrists isolated where they're really not flipping or rolling or twisting or loading. I think that'd be the easiest way to really minimize what the wrists are doing. And again, I just call that our basic chip shot.
Gotcha.
I think if the average golfer got better at that one shot, their scores would come down.
So moving on to putting now, which certainly would help my game, help your game, help all of our games. What's the best way to improve that?
Well, there's a class I teach every weekend in the summers. It's an aim point green reading class, and I always incorporate about 15 to 30 minutes of speed work, because if you don't have speed control or the ability to control speed, I can give you the most accurate read. You can start it online. The ball's still not going to go in the hole. So speed is really the trump card for putting. So with that, I like setting a metronome up or there's a great product out called Blast Motion, which for $150 is basically in the inverse of a metronome. You take the putt, and it's giving you the data as far as how many seconds or what fraction of a second did it take for your backswing, and then what fraction of the downswing. And basically, we're looking for like a pendulum-like motion, which would be a 2-to-1 backswing to downswing ratio. But for people that don't purchase that, if you download a simple metronome, set it at about 66 beats a minute or 70 beats a minute, somewhere in that range, and just get accustomed to getting the putter to swing tick, 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 tick to the same rhythm, because then what happens is the length of the backswing then determines how far the ball goes.
Okay.
So if you have the same cadence each time, then the length that you draw it back is going to determine how far the ball goes. So for a short putt, you'd still be on 70 beats a minute, tick, 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 with a short backswing. For an 80-foot putt, tick, tick, tick. Because it's traveling, because the putter would have to travel further, inherently it's also traveling faster. And that's where the speed of the putter and distance control comes in. So
it's too many physics. Too many physics for me.
Yeah. When in doubt, use science.
And that's an interesting point. It's I think the biggest part that a lot of people struggle with is that consistency and having the consistent speed in their putter to try and make the contact.
Absolutely correct. And, we are in the age of data. So, products like Blast Motion allow you to measure every single putt that you ever had. So it's like, you could sit there for 10 minutes. And if I assign you a certain backswing time of, say, 0.60 seconds and the downswing of 0.30, basically every putt you hit, we'll measure one variable. It probably would be the backswing time first. And if you get pretty consistent at that, then people really start getting a feel for what the downswing should do and how, each ball should basically go the same distance if we take the same length and have the same time of the backswing. So
sure.
It's pretty simple stuff.
We'll see with my game.
In theory, right.
Oh, no. But most people aren't me, so I definitely trust you on that one. So a few weeks ago when we had you on, we were talking about Aaron Hills up there in Wisconsin. So in a few weeks, U.S. Open there. What's your prediction?
Well, I think it's going to be a fun tournament to watch, only because only a handful of guys, I'm sure more guys by now have visited the golf course and played it and seen it, and the caddies have seen it and done some of their pregame work. I'm hopeful, in the next 8-9 days, all the U.S. Open sectional qualifying is going to happen. And it would be really nice to see Steve Stricker qualify for the event. He was not granted an exemption by the USGA, which he kind of knew he didn't deserve, so to speak. But, hometown Madison guy, Aaron Hills, a U.S. Open in Wisconsin. It would really be neat to see him qualify for the event, if for no other reason than just be a great spokesperson for Wisconsin and for Aaron Hills. So, but the top guns are the top guns for that reason, and it's one of those things. I look at the top 4, 5, 6 in the world, and it's pretty hard to bet against those guys right now because they all hit it long, they all hit it straight, they can all control it under the wind, and normally it'll come down to who's got the hottest short game, because at a U.S. Open, you really need to putt it well. You really need to chip it well. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. Jordan is playing better in the last few weeks. DJ's unbelievable, but it's one of those things with chipping and putting. He was good enough to do it at Oakmont last year. Rory, it'll be interesting. He's coming off a little rib injury, and we're not sure if he's 100%. He's still playing in the tournament. But then you got some great ball hitters. Kevin Kisner just won yesterday, and it's one of those things. I think it's anybody's Open. If you go down the top 30 in the world, any of those guys could win, and you never know. We might see somebody that no one expected win. Only because it's a newer golf course for the guys that no one's really played it.
That should be interesting for that reason alone. Regardless of who you're rooting for, the fact that it's a new course will be fun. All right, we're recording this show on Monday, the day that the news of Tiger Woods and his arrest. I want to get this correct because they're calling it suspicion of DUI. for Tiger. Now, he's a few weeks removed from his fourth back surgery. Marty, what do you make of the latest Tiger news?
Well, it's sad, first of all. I think just everyone's trying to pull for the guy at this point. I don't think anyone's, rooting against him.
Sure.
It's just a sad kind of stage in his life, and it really started about 8 or 9 years ago when he and his wife split up.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think he's ever really brought resolve back into that. And I know he's been to therapy for a few different things, and maybe now is the time that he needs God or something spiritual in his life to kind of get him through whatever he's going through now. It's a sad thing. It's a dark moment for him, certainly a dark moment for golf, because he brought so many people into the game.
Yeah.
And we're rooting for him to get better. Heck, I would love to see him win again, because it's only better for the game if he does well.
Tell us a little bit about the impact snap. I know we've heard a little bit about it in previous episodes and whatnot.
Yeah, we're doing great. Golf Digest at the beginning of May gave us a great award, Best Training Aid again, and
congratulations.
We're really, really happy about. It's big for us. What's interesting is we didn't make the print edition, but we did make the online edition. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe they owe me one. I don't know. But and then Golf Range Association of America gave us an award for being in the top 25 training aids of all time, or 2017, I should say. And recently, about a month ago, I got in touch with a couple of friends on XM Radio, Carl and Dennis Paulson on Inside the Ropes PGA Tour Network. And I threw out an idea saying, hey guys, I'm thinking of making like 50 units up, putting a USA flag instead of our trademark yellow golf ball. We replaced it with a white golf ball with a USA flag on it. And ended up raising $5,000 for the Folds of Honor Foundation, which thanks for having me on Memorial Day, because the funds go for basically children's scholarships of fallen heroes. So, which is perfect that we were able to announce that last Friday on their show, and then today with you guys.
That's awesome.
It's very nice.
Will there be some proceeds still going to that organization?
Yeah, so we actually, I mailed the check out on Friday. We raised, we ended up making a few extra units, I think 60 in all, and we just took that money, rounded it up, and it's kind of cool because a friend of mine from upstate New York, Tony Beata, is a vice president at Folds of Honor. So I called him, I told him what we were doing. I said, look, it looks like we're going to raise $4,000. And he goes, is there any chance you could raise $5,000? Because, but then he explained to me, $5,000 is one full scholarship for a kid. So I said, absolutely, we'll do that. And Carl and Dennis are big in promoting that foundation, which is, they were great to work with on that. So
awesome.
Fun stuff.
Where can we find the Impact Snap? What's the website?
You can find it at impactsnap.com. Google it, Impact Snap Golf Training Device. It's a great lag release trainer, trains the wrists how to repeat through impact.
There we go. Marty Nowicki, the owner of the Impact Snap device and a PGA professional. We thank you for the time, sir.
Thanks, guys. Happy Memorial Day.
Thanks again to Marty Nowicki, the owner of the Impact Snap and a PGA professional. Man, I want to continue that discussion pertaining to Tiger Woods. As I said, he was arrested on suspicion of DUI. Unclear at the time whether it was drugs or alcohol. Tiger Woods releasing a statement as we're recording this. I'll read it to you in just a minute. I want to get to the rest of the details of this. He was arrested in Jupiter, Florida around 3 a.m., later released under his own recognizance. Woods announced on his website on April 20th that he had undergone a fourth operation on his back to alleviate pain. Woods said the surgery went well and his long-term prognosis to returning to competitive golf was positive. As I said, Woods released his own statement, and it says, in part, quote, I understand the severity of what I did, and I take full responsibility for my actions. I want the public to know that alcohol was not involved. What happened was an unexpected reaction to prescribed medications. I didn't realize the mix of medications had affected me so strongly. So that's an interesting little nugget, because what are you doing on the road at 3 a.m.? if you're not out.
Hey, Denny's is open all the time. Grand Slam. But in all seriousness, it's really too bad, especially because now he's very much removed from something that he did not deserve to the benefit of the doubt with. But it's someone who's having so much trouble on the course, and now you're having stuff off the course. I think it's an added thing. He doesn't even know what he's doing in terms of getting the golf game back up to at least close to what it was back in the day, and now he's got this on his plate too.
Tiger apologizing to friends, family, and fans, also saying he cooperated with law enforcement and personally thanked the representatives of the Jupiter Police Department and Palm Beach County Sheriff's offices for their professionalism. Interesting that development as we were recording. I did want to mention this. Woods said on his own website that this is as good as he's felt in years, which is interesting because none of the 3 prior surgeries he's come out with a statement so strong. And I think it gives hope to a lot of fans out there that want to see Tiger perform. He's a guy that brings in attention, and when there's attention on the sport, dollars increase for not only Tiger, but every other golfer. I think not only golfing fans, but fellow golfers want to see Tiger return. The question is, can he rebound?
And that's a great question. And the fact that he seems to be this surgery coming back on the other side of it better, which I think it's a big deal because he's just not been the same physically for so long. You just hope that this, I don't want to call it something that it's not because it's so early. Maybe in the process with suspicion.
That's why it's a leg story. It's still got a lot to be developed.
The fact that it was just suspicion at this point, but does that hurt his psyche? Because that's a big part of it.
That's true. That's a good
especially
point.
Golf.
Especially golf. Woods last played competitive golf in February. In Dubai, he withdrew from the tournaments. Time winding down. Let's get the thank yous in. Travis Eldridge, the anchor host at Lax Sports Network. Our thanks to him. Great stuff on the cross. I could talk Lax with him for days.
Samesies.
Our thanks to Marty Nowicki, the owner of the Impact Snap and a PGA professional. Our thanks to the guys at $10 Tee Club. Check us out on iTunes, Google Play. Download, subscribe, rate, review, the whole 9 yards.
Make us baked goods.
You can do that too. Check out the post-game press conference on a Wednesday. Friday show drops on a Friday, both on YouTube. Check us out on Twitter, at @TBD_show. We're going to lose the music here. Oh, there it was.
Shout out to Mick Shmula.
This has never
Sports by Mom.
This has never happened before. We've never ran out of time.
Oh, my God.
We timed this very poorly. Check us out on Instagram, To Be Determined Show. We'll work on the music situation. Email the show at TBD_mailman. As you mentioned, senior producer Mitch Baluco. Executive producer at Sports by Mom. Later, boys.
And girls.